Hello, welcome everyone. It's Thursday, 11 a.m. Mountain, and we're here for another broadcast of Awakening Spiritual Gifts. And we're so happy you're here. We're so excited to be able to do this every weekday for you and answer questions that you have about your own personal spiritual gifts, or maybe in general, as well as intuition and purpose and all things under the stars, right? So while we are getting ready to see your comments, Martina is going to start off with an energetic reading of the planet and what's going on. And if you're like any of us, or if you're particularly sensitive, you may be feeling some of these things and you don't even know it. So it's always good to be able to do that. And Martina's gifts, if you haven't tuned in before, she has some pretty unique gifts, and she can explain a little bit more, but she can see light and energy with her physical eyes. And this isn't to brag. She was very reluctant to do this. I was too. It's not necessarily something we like to broadcast to the public, but if it helps people, and if it helps for people to understand that you have intuitive gifts too, and you have this potential to tap into this greatness within, then we're all for it. And that's why we're here. So let's dive into today's energy.
I love it. Thanks for bringing all that up. It's so true. Like we're just here to serve, and we felt the prompting and the impression to come. Heck, like for months, I kept feeling like we got to do something like this. And it was just like, wow.
Fighting it.
We're passionate about, we are not the gurus that know it all. We really love to just help serve. We love to help and serve, and then also help other people develop their own gifts, because we all can do this work. So okay, let's look at what's going on in the energy. It's I was even thinking, when you said energy of the world, I think sometimes I focus a little bit more on closer by. I'm curious about a wider view today. But when I first tapped into the energy today, it was, it was a little bit of the play, a little bit adding on to what it was yesterday, but I could see almost these for lack of a better word, like solar flares going up. And it was like reminding me of, like, if someone needs help and they're lost in the wilderness and they just kind of like light these flares to be seen. I could see some of that happening, which is really a good sign. So I just felt like reminding everyone, if there's something that you're struggling with, or that you're, asking, if you're praying, if you're asking God for something, if you're asking for angelic support and help and comfort for this, or even just to have people, earthly angels, answer that call, this is definitely a great time to do that, because it just seems like things are being answered. Prayers are always heard, but right now there's just an amplified, like, collective where these things are going up. So it's just goes right down to that, ask and ye shall receive. And honestly, that's more than just like we're beggars. We're not beggars asking for things. It's part of our gift and our ability to co-create. Some things cannot be done unless we ask first. And so, like, almost heaven is bound, and I apologize. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Things happen. Sometimes it's like, is that just a sign for us to wake up and like really listen to what you're about to say, like a phone going off or something, right?
Right. Oh, so annoying. He's been quiet. All of a sudden, I think somebody just dropped I probably got a package, because I love
everyone. Send him good energy, so he stops.
Right. Come here. Anyway. So, but so prayers are always being heard. I was talking about the asking and the receiving, but there are some things that, like, heaven is almost bound. Like, God is a God of order and laws. And so some things he's like, come unto me, like, asking you shall receive, but we have to ask in order to unlock that. the ability to receive. So don't hold back on any of your prayers or asking. Ask, pour out your hearts. Like it's just, and that's really kind of what I'm seeing there is just these collective like flares going off, and it's celebrated and they're being answered, and then it's encouraging more to come. So keep that coming. I'm also seeing some heart energy that is moving around. There's like, it does have kind of a reddish tint to it, which is just matters of the heart in general. So if you're feeling more pain, if you're hurting in your heart, that's definitely part of it. But also it's an opportunity to expand your heart, to expand your love, to think of others, to connect to others. It's a purification of the heart right now. It's just lots and lots of heart energies it looks like just like almost like a fog, but it's heart energy going across the land. And then it's still, this is kind of a little bit of what I shared yesterday. I do see a bit of that linking arms, connecting with each other, and how important that is to reach out, connect to others, because it's what it looks like is it's almost like a grid, but it's a little different than some of the grid energy I see. A net, that's the better frame or verbiage there. It looks like a net or a circus tent. It really does. It's just like as we link together, and then it's going to pop up and be able to be over all of us. So let's link together, ramp up that heart energy, heal, support, and then come up. So
I love that. Yeah, and we're using actually a new software today. So anybody listening in the Intuition Playground, which is our free group on Facebook, if you are listening there, you come up on our screen as Facebook user until you follow the instructions that I just put on the screen, which is just to type in that address, streamyard.com/Facebook. Either that, or you can go over to the Intuition Gym page, and it allows us to see names on the page, but not on the group unless you give that permission. So just a little disclaimer, so we all know who's talking here. So yeah, and Martina, just to tag on to what you were saying, like I've been getting some like really interesting downloads, really interesting information coming, and like where before I didn't feel like I could know the answer, like for whatever reason, like maybe I didn't have permission or it wasn't time yet or whatever. It's like now I'm getting answers and they're like coming, and it's like it just feels like all things, like almost all things, could be unlocked if you just ask and pray and ask to receive those things. So it's been really interesting the last few days. So
okay. Second witness to that.
Yeah, for sure. So we have someone who wrote in. She would like just a general scan, and her name is Mandy.
Okay. Okay, Mandy. One of the first things I see when I look at you is the like the energy that comes from your eyes. It's very much, it's like light coming from your eyes, and it's looking upward. So a lot of that is telling me that you have some really optimistic abilities and skills, and even gifts, because then I can also see it coming down through your heart, and it feels like you've got a lot of buoyancy to you. Perhaps you're even like, if everyone's feeling a bit down and low, you're the type of person to be like, come on, everybody, we can do it. It's just like almost that cheerleader, very buoyant energy and a gift. And it's interesting because I actually see around you, I see these challenges that you've got around you and that you've had in the past. Even some bigger challenges I can see remnants of it there around you, but yet you have such a desire for joy and peace and to help people be happy, that it truly is. It's like, that's a gift that maybe you don't even think of as being a gift. As long as it's just my personality. Well, it's a gift. Like not everybody has that. ability. Not only can it bring resiliency, but I really just like picture it like one of the little buoy things in the water, and it just like, and it bounces back up. So that is a huge gift. And especially when you've got people or situations around you that might feel heavy, you can be one to help lift it. Now, the flip side of that, and of course, all of our gifts have a light, and it's like a coin. And so sometimes there's a light and a shadow side, maybe that you don't see or that you don't appreciate as much, right? But it's like you got the two sides of the coin. Our gifts are like the coin. And so the light side is that buoyancy. Now, the flip side of that could be when things are really hard, perhaps there's some emotions you try to avoid, or you just try to put on a happy face and just go through it with a happy face instead of allowing all of that time that sometimes heavy emotions require traveling through it. It's just, that's the way it is. Sometimes they're heavy and you got to feel it. And also too, it could be like when you're relating to other people, perhaps if they're having a hard time, it's difficult for you to let them sit in what may feel like suffering, because you want to hurry and pull them out of suffering too quickly. And there really is just a lot of value in sometimes suffering. We learn a lot through it. We grow a lot through it. And so I would just kind of recommend just kind of checking in with yourself and seeing, when am I trying to move through it too quickly? When is this a gift? When I can help others? When do I feel that discomfort and try to rush in and save people from it? And especially if you try to come in and save people too much, then it could be one, it could enable them. They could start leaning on you too much. It could start draining you. It could start cutting in on your boundaries. So just it's important to check that and make sure that you're not carrying more than is your role and part of what is being asked of you, because it is a gift. I would just check in with that, with your higher power, and feel whenever you're prompted to step in and when you're not. So awesome energy though. Love it.
Cool. All right. The next person for us to look at is Andrea. She writes in, "I'd love for you to look at my health. I was diagnosed with postpartum. I would really love to have more children, but I am conflicted moving forward. And would you be willing to share one of the gifts you see in me?"
Okay. Okay, the first thing I do see just some of the physical changes that happened, especially during that time period. I see kind of the chemistry in your body and in your brain. So the first thing I'd like to just even recommend, I can see it was also amplified a bit by some beliefs and some of the things that you believe about yourself, or like expectations that you've placed on situations or yourself, like things that almost attaching your value too much to things that you can get done, things that you can do, the way that things look, the way, like all of that. There's a little too much connection with self-worth connected to that. So the first thing I'd say is give yourself lots and lots of grace. Like there's so many chemistry, like your body changes, your chemistry changes, you got hormones going crazy. And then afterwards, life isn't quite the same. And so I would really, really recommend just lots and lots of love and grace and forgiveness. And if you possibly can, even evaluate some of those thoughts and beliefs around your self-worth. And remember, who you are has nothing to do with what you can do, how things look, how accomplished you can be, how many things you can check off a to-do list, how, your appearance or the appearance of your house. Like all of those things have nothing to do with who you are and your worth. And it's kind of tricky for us to start unwinding those beliefs. Society likes to help us connect those. And, think about even magazines and heck, I've even seen it in church. It's like people are like, okay, let's share some good news. And then it turns into like a brag fest about things that their children are doing, or things, like, oh, this happened. And it's all like action oriented versus who we really are, and that character and the virtues that are held in our hearts and the way that we were created to be like as our divine selves. So it takes a little time to kind of unravel some of that. Some of the gifts that you have. Okay, I'm seeing, I'm actually seeing a lot of abilities for you. I use the phrase on this, high capacity. like where you're a high capacity person where you typically can get a lot done. I can see perhaps it's like you just can look at a scenario or something that's happening and you're like, okay, this is what we got to do. And like you could list it off and it comes easy and natural to you. Perhaps you even know what other people got to do. There's just some great like leader delegator type energy in you. The shadow side of that gift is that it could be easier to do it all yourself versus take the time to tell someone else what to do. And as someone who relates to that, or I totally relate to that, that sometimes it's like, oh, it will slow me down more if I try to explain it or let people do it. It's just like, I got to do it myself. And then some of the other gifts there, I see it stemming from your heart and then moving down into your hands. And it's very much about like the people's, like if people, whatever their needs are, you just have this ability to know what they need. I'm picturing like the imagery that comes to my mind with that is, like if someone's coming to just stay at your house, you're going to know what food to have in the fridge to feed them. You're going to prepare the guest room, wash the sheets, make the bed all pretty. You're going to just have the bathroom stuff all set up, get their towels. Like you're just going to know how to make them feel super comfortable and have all of their needs taken care of. So that's one of the gifts that I see that you have. I'd be really curious if you have not already, I would recommend taking our intuitive personality quiz, because I can see that I'd be really curious if your intuitive personality tests what I'm thinking by looking at your energy here, because there's definitely a combo, which our quiz mainly goes to the dominant ones, but in our free group, the Intuition Playground group, you can go in there and there's a bunch of videos. So you can kind of identify what your primary one is and your secondary one is. And it'd be really fascinating to see, oh yes, thanks for bringing that up, what you are, because I can almost see some of this energy here that matches some of that personality, which is cool.
Love it. Okay, so I put up a couple of links there so you guys can check those destinations out. And just a little reminder, if you're watching in the Intuition Playground, to go to this link, streamyard.com/Facebook, so we can see your pretty face or your handsome face and your name and know who's talking to us. So, okay, the next person, here's an example. This is how it shows up. Womp womp. Facebook user. Nope. So this person, I looked over to see who it is in the group, but if you could help me out, it would be a huge blessing to me because I have like so many things I'm looking at. Okay, so this is Ginger. So please help me know if I should invest in an LLC for my coaching business. I haven't started charging clients yet. Here comes the future looking disclaimer.
I know it's funny that future disclaimer is just that future is like, sometimes we think of time as linear, and time is not linear. Time actually changes depending on the moment of choice now. So I can definitely look at like the thread of now in the choices that are being made, but to know to future tell you what's always best, like that is an agency thing. I can tell you which way the energy leans. But yes. So interesting enough, when I first read this, though, the energy that first came up for me with you is that I'm seeing that perhaps there's some beliefs around forming an LLC that are making you feel like you're walking up to the bottom of a mountain, and it looks big and giant and like, oh my gosh, I got to hike all the way up that mountain. And that's just not true. That's not the way it has to be. So there's some things to overcome. There's some things to learn and do, but the way that it's being just the belief in the head and seeing the viewpoint here is not in a, like the what is the word? Like the balance is off, or the perspective is off. It's amplified by, it's like if it was like this big, that create a molehill out of an anthill or whatever that phrase is. But it's like, because you have these beliefs or fear around it being so much bigger and harder than it is, then it is becoming this big mountain when really it's only like this big of a thing. That's just like a key to unlock the door. So my personal opinion, and this is just part of like my business coaching side, heck yeah, get that LLC. I actually form LLCs, help every single one of my children when they turn 18. I'm helping them form their own LLC because they're going to have jobs. They usually have jobs on the side and they'll do things, and they all have their own drives and passions. And it's so helpful to have that. You could do, your tax write-offs, and then all of your passions in business you can load under there, and it can even become your primary source of income. So I'm a big fan of forming an LLC. You honestly, I don't know what state you're in. So if you put that in there, I know that like I've formed, I don't even know how many I've formed or even helped people form, but probably a good few dozen businesses. And forming an LLC, yeah, forming an LLC these days is pretty darn easy. You could actually go on the state of Utah's, the state, I'm in Utah, but it's like you just go through and there's literally like pop-ups and you just fill in the blank and it forms that. And then you can just go ahead and file, you can kind of Google some of those things and research. It's like you got your articles of incorporation, your articles of, anyway, but I don't think that it has to take as much money or time or work as you may believe that it does. So something about there, if there's, hopefully you can find someone or just Google, or I'm sure YouTube. Like, I just feel like there's some resources that you could tap into to make it easier for you. And then let me see anything else with the only other thing with you, I can see your gifts. It's like I'm seeing them behind a door. I can see your gifts. I can see your heart. I can see the excitement. Like there's a little bit of heart spark that's like, yay, I want to do this. This sounds fun. I want to do my business. And it's very like eager and happy and joyful and wanting to do it, but it's behind a door. And so it just feels like just opening up that door. And to remember that, like you'll often hear me say on these recordings, God can't move a parked car. So sometimes you just got to take action and get moving. And it's like the cogs in the wheel, where even though it's like a big giant machine, even if you just move the littlest tiny cog, if you start moving the littlest one, it can start the whole machine rolling. So don't be afraid to take action. Just take it. It's going to feel scary. By the way, I can tell you, like every single person who's ever done anything is going, it is, and especially with starting your own business and stuff, it's scary. It's a matter of coming up like you're up on the edge of a cliff and it feels like you're being asked to jump. Now, the only difference between jumping, those who jump and those who don't jump, is those that don't jump bump up into the fear. They listen to their brain, because the brain does this. It's screaming, be safe, keep yourself safe. That's your brain wants to keep safe at all costs. So it starts yelling at you to stay safe. The people who don't jump listen to the voice to stay safe and they back away from the edge. The ones who actually jump go up to the edge. They hear their brain screaming, be safe, and they jump anyway. And it's terrifying. And so they just still jump with the butterflies. The butterflies, you can exist either way, but they exist. And then it's either you land or you learn, you fly, like something happens, and then you get up and you do it again, and you repeat that process. And the more you take scary steps, the easier it becomes, and the more courage you have the next time. And even still, as an entrepreneur here, like there are still steps that I feel those butterflies go, oh, this one's a big one. Okay, here we go. And I just get used to jumping with the butterflies, even with those brain things screaming. I'm sure, Christy, you can probably agree to that one.
Totally. Totally.
Life of an entrepreneur right there.
It's a roller coaster ride, that's for sure. Okay, the next one that we have is from Jennifer. And she says her husband, Simon, would like to know what's stopping him from achieving some goals.
Oh, I love this. Hi, Jennifer, and hi, Simon. Welcome. Okay, Simon, let's look at this. Oh, first things first, I just want to say, when I'm looking at that question, looking at the energy of what's coming in on you, I actually see some disappointment energy. Like maybe you've been hurt. There's something that didn't work or hurt, or it's just, when I see it, it just looks like something kind of smashed down on your head. Like maybe you had some dreams kind of get crushed, or someone or a situation, just something kind of hurt. And it was like, ow, ow. And so you're still recovering from whatever that situation is that brought you a bit of pain. I can see just this extreme, well-intentioned heart and desire. So I'm seeing you like just trying to get up and trying to get up. I'm reminded of like a soldier who has been wounded. You know, you got some soldiers who, like, if you're on a battlefield, I kind of have this vision or this imagery of a bunch of soldiers running. They got their packs on. They have to get over to a border. So they're running and there's like fire in the air and everything. And they're trying to get over to the border. And so those that were not injured were able to reach there faster. But let's say one of the soldiers got shot in the leg and he's still crawling and he's still determined, but it's just taken a little bit more time because he has a wound. So I'm seeing this wound. So definitely, for one, have patience with yourself and some grace. Definitely, it's easy to beat yourself up when you're not where you feel like you want to be, or, as far advanced as you would like to be. So that can be frustrating. So just be a little patient with yourself and understand that, oh man, I just got my leg shot or whatever. And so I've got to give it a little time and a little nurturing to strengthen it and to feel like I'm capable again. But then also too, the other aspect is to, okay, I'm seeing some strengthening things here where maybe you didn't reach some goals, but that this time where you're like reaching and trying to, like, the fight and the hard work to achieve your goals is actually part of the blessing and the gift to you. So I did post that video about the value of struggle, and it feels kind of like that. If you can scroll down on the page, but it feels something like that. Like there's something about the struggle that you may not know is a gift, but it is actually a gift. And the things that you're learning through the struggle and through the fight that you're working, or the work that you're doing to achieve that goal, the things that you're learning there are so valuable that it's actually going to be able to help you more in the future and help you achieve them faster. And I even say, like, would help other people. Like there's something there. I do see that you have, I can see why there would be some frustration, because I am seeing I'm seeing a lot of, like, you do have some big goals. You do have some things that you'd like to accomplish on this world, and they're very bright and they're very beautiful. And it's like the intentions of your heart and your mind, like the gifts, like who you are and who you're created to be. You are supposed to reach certain things. You do have big things to do. And so it could feel extra challenging at times. But also too, I feel like a reminder that sometimes those that have big hurdles to go through are the ones who have big things inside of them to share. So just remember that those hurdles are also part of your path, and that just keep going. Keep going. Don't lose faith, and then just have grace and peace and understanding. Just use what you get from those wounds. It's like Viktor Frankl says, like the moment that suffering, or the moment you find meaning in your suffering, then it ceases to be suffering. So find the meaning in what you're going through right now. That's what I would recommend. So sending the best on that. And also too, for you and for everyone else, like, I'd love to hear how this resonated. Like what was like, oh yes, thank you, that was right on. Or you're like, oh Martina, you're so far off in left field. Like any of it, I want to hear it all. So just let us know.
Jennifer says, thank you so much for her husband, Simon, for answering that for him. Okay, so the next question we're going to go to is Alicia Burke. I'm wondering if you can tell me what's going on with my daughter and her not sleeping well. Her name is Mila. We have her on reflux medicine. I feel she has constipation. What do you see?
How old was she? Did it say?
It didn't say.
Okay. So I'm seeing some fear, like almost being afraid of things and afraid of letting things go. And interestingly enough, it's like both of those things, like the reflex and even the constipation are both kind of part, they can have some similarities where it's basically just being blocked. So the flow and letting, like your assimilation, if you think about food and the symbolism there, that when you eat, you digest, it goes down, and then it releases out through waste, and so, but it's a whole entire process. And so it's like her middle process is being blocked. And part of that is just fear. There's this fear of letting go. There's a fear of doing things wrong. It's not all hers too. I'm seeing some generational patterns there that may have come down. Was it through father's side? Like father's mother? Anyway, but I'm just seeing some of this generational beliefs around just doing things just right. It could also be stemming from, I'm picking up some emotions of like, you got to do things just right or you're going to get in trouble. So it feels a little bit like walking on eggshells. So perhaps there's some kind of family trend of pressure and, maybe even getting in trouble, maybe there's even some verbal abuse or some kind of, or any kind of abuse there that made it so scary to do things wrong or to let things go or to do it, that it just all of a sudden, as soon as it gets there, it just holds it. And there's also a little bit of a fear of the unknown, fear of what could be around the corner. So that could be even future, fear of a little bit of the future, fear of, what could be behind my closet door. And so with some of those, I would just, even just acknowledging some of the generational patterns and helping to just choose a new path can be a form of release. Also, too, to help encourage her and help to give her the knowledge and the tools of addressing all of those things and all of those concerns. One of the things that I used to do for my children that was really helpful, especially for digestion or sleeping issues, is I used to do these little meditations at night where I would just throw on music and then take them through like like for my one son, I used to just put on music and describe what it would feel like to go underneath the water and that you can breathe underwater, and we'd go exploring and looking at fishes and describe what it feels like to have the body relax and the stomach relax and just feel peaceful and calm. Like, I just feel like there's some tools there that you could help her learn how to listen to her body and not being afraid of the unknown, and also feel peaceful in making mistakes, making choices that, like, celebrate those mistakes, celebrate the flaws, let her know it's okay to just be, and that there's nothing that's going to happen if she's not doing things perfect, and so just help her to breathe and to release it all. So anyway, let me know how that goes. Let's send in my love.
Love it. And we're getting some feedback from Jennifer. So that's really great to hear. It rings true. It resonates. We love hearing this feedback too, you guys. If you can comment about how it resonated for you. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to this. I'm pointing it out that I know there's no picture and it says Facebook user, and I'll put the instructions again, how to go to streamyard.com/Facebook to just allow us to see that. But here's the question, Martina, you can see it. Everyone can see it. She's curious what her intuition type she is. She identifies with 3 of them strongly, but most heart and mind. I've taken the quiz and it said earth, and that is the one I least connect with. And then the second time she took it, it was heart, which makes sense. I experience the opposites of heart and mind when in the shadow or when I'm having a hard time, and my intuition is through knowing a lot of times, and heart quite a bit, though I think that's a bit wounded stuck, which is why I'm not sure. So I'm also going to put below, guys, the link to the quiz. So if anyone is interested in taking that and discovering their intuitive personality type, they can.
Cool. Okay. So one of the first things is that if someone is often saying that, oh, I identify like these two almost equal, then I would actually even invite them to even consider that perhaps, because the way that perhaps considering that maybe one of the other two are the dominant ones. And And the reason for that is that we all have all four of them, but we have one that's dominantly like the anchor point, or the way that the energy and the personality intuition flows into us, and then it moves through us. But it's like a northeast southwest. So north south doesn't quite match, but you could go have a north and then go east west, right? Like, and it kind of flows a little bit better to there. And so that's the first thing that I'm wondering is if you have perhaps one of those other ones, like the sky or the earth as a dominant. So I'm going to look at that in just 1 minute. And then the other thing too, to just be super aware of, is that our upbringing, our childhood, the things that our parents taught us, what we're taught to value, really can also affect the way that we answer these questions. Because if you're just like, oh, I'm rejecting, it'd be easy. Like for me, I'm dominant sky, but my parents definitely had earth. Like, I think it was like earth heart or heart earth for each of those. And so much of the earth energy that for me as a sky, it just felt like such a cage. But I grew up thinking something was wrong with me. So I tried really hard to fit into the box that they told me was best. And I learned how to do it well. I could go and I could do it, but I just wasn't joyful about it, because it wasn't my happy place where where the energy comes in. It's what brings you to life, and just like, oh yes, that's like my favorite place to be. Okay. And so I didn't have my favorite place to be. So I just was depressed and just trying to operate in that other one, but I could do it well. And I'm sure that if I answer quizzes, I could mark it off. Like, that's what I value. So there's stuff to recognize there with your upbringing and how the people around you, what are their dominant languages, and how did they teach you which is best? The other thing too, to just keep in mind, is that when we struggle, we go to the opposite one, but we do it in its shadow form. So let's say I'm, a natural, I mean, I don't want to go too much. We have lots of videos in that, but if you've got heart and all of a sudden you flip into mind, it could be like almost shutting off your caring and your emotions, and just like, no. And it can just be a little more sassy and cold, or someone who's naturally in the mind energy is just more objective, and they just have more, that's just their resting face, and they just like to think of things more logical and things. So and if all of a sudden they start crying, it's like, whoa, they're crying, they don't know why, and it's really overwhelming and stuff. So just keep in mind how it is when you're wounded. So that kind of gives a little bit for those that are doing it. And Melissa, here's in fact, we've got to go. In the intuition gym, we do have some other courses that are going to specifically be really good for you coming up, that are going to be talking about the our mind and our mental scope and lens that we have, because the way that we sort and make decisions can mimic some of the mind or the heart energy, right? It just, or the mind, or like the earth or the sky energy. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It can mimic some of the sky or earth energy. So by chance, you have this certain, perhaps your heart, but then you also have this other element that can feel very earthy and mindy at the same time. It's kind of a yin and yang thing. So if something's yin, and anyway, this is way complicated because there's a million videos. Okay, not a million videos in the intuition gym, but we've got trainings on trainings and layered trainings. So let's even
There's
dive
24 classes, and a lot of the classes have multiple videos, and we're going to be adding more. And the cool thing about the intuition gym is it's intuitive. It's like, what do you want to work on today? And we have a whole map that kind of takes you through a path. Every day you could be, spending like 10 minutes here, or if you wanted to go longer, 30 minutes there, and just working on whatever it is that you need. So, because we're all evolving and we're all in different spots in our journey.
So, and in fact, I would love to dive into this deeper on our next intuition gym call, because this would be a fantastic topic for us to dive into, like more in depth than what I can do here. But looking at your energy, I'll just look at this really fast. So, yeah, I definitely see that watchful energy through your eyes and through the knowing. Let me just kind of touch base on some of these things. The way that you feel other people's emotions does look like it almost travels through your um mind, almost like you just know how people feel. Like you know how to have compassion. Um so it does do it just a little bit differently. That's kind of like the spiritual sense. It's like you've got clear empathy, or not clear empathy. You have the empath gift of empathy. You know how to pick up what someone's feeling, but you're picking it up through your knowing in your mind and your claircognizance. So it's like knowing here. And so that can create this like, whoa, heart, mind, I know what people are feeling because you got that part, but then it's coming through here. And then as far as your intuitive personality type, there is a possibility that I'm thinking that you might actually be like a mind sky with that mental lens that brings in an earth energy, which brings in more closure, get it done, focus on what's like in front of you that mimics the earth. So that's kind of some of the flow, but this is a way complex thing. And I'd love to dive in deep more next week on our call in the intuition gym, because you would be a perfect person for us to go through all the questions and all the types. And in fact, maybe we can get that video in before next Wednesday and help that. So good question though. But straight up, like beautiful gifts there. I see it in your watchful eyes, beautiful heart, and your gift of knowing, and a gift of that watchful energy is a gift of seeing other people. And it's very, very beautiful. And I see like this ability to serve in a very unique way. You do have a unique flow of energy here with personality. So I would love to just dive in deeper with that then.
Okay. Do you have time for a couple more?
I have time for, yeah, probably actually.
Okay, cool. This is a
for,
special day. We actually have like, we don't have a hard stop at 11:30. So we're
yeah,
gonna go a
I've
little
got
longer.
one more because I do have to go get I
Okay,
can do one more.
perfect.
I got to go get my daughter.
Heidi, okay. Would love some insight on feeling disconnected from a lot of things right now. Not like me. Thanks.
Okay. All right, Heidi. So this is you know how like if a breaker box gets overloaded, it starts blowing fuses or shuts off. That's kind of what I'm seeing that happen. That maybe there was a lot that came in for you, and probably just 2020. Like I can see that definitely. Just whatever it is, it's just like I just saw like a lot of things coming in at you at once. Maybe a lot of stressful things, a lot of emotional things, just all over. And all of a sudden it just was like fritzing out and then wanting to like power down. So just a bit of that overwhelm. And then now let's see, how do we get that back on? Let's see here. Okay, there's also a physical element to it. I'm seeing some of your adrenals getting a little tired. So I don't know if you've been a little more tired lately, fatigued. So I would just make sure you're ramping up your self-care, making sure that you're getting all the things it's asking for. If you've got to take a nap in the middle of the day, sometimes start doing it. Set your alarm and do like a 15, 20-minute lay down, power up rest. Let yourself do it. If you're feeling stressed, instead of just keep on trying to do, allow yourself to just shut it off and take time to sit or take a bath sometimes instead of a shower, just to take those rest times. And then also just making sure that all your supplementation, like all your things that your body is asking for is there: hydration, rest, vitamin D, magnesium, like all of those things. Make sure that you're just giving yourself what it requires, and it just feels like it'll start to power back on. If you try to force it back on, it's going to stay shut off more, or it's going to flip off even more. So it's almost like a gentle coaxing, like stay in that being energy to help recover from it, and then it can bring you out a bit more. And also too, I would recommend taking a look around and seeing what things that you could possibly even say no to. It might just be a time to really simplify, so that when you do connect to things, it's connecting to things that you care about the most and letting the rest of it go. It's not that they have to stay off forever. Maybe later you can connect to them, but just being very selective on what you are choosing to connect to right now. until you start feeling a bit better. And then you can add a little bit more if you choose, or you might actually prefer the simpler life with things. So I hope that helps. Let me know how that resonated.
Awesome. Okay.
So
So that's it for today. Also, just a quick reminder. Thanks everyone for your comments. It's great to see all of you. Please let us know how these are resonating. Feel free to go in the comments. Also, be sure to join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. Mountain. Get here early so you can get your question in. And just a reminder, too, that our membership price goes up on Monday for the intuitiongym.com. This is our page. This is free to all who want to utilize this amazing way to get questions answered. And if you'd like to dive deeper and really start to open up your intuitive gifts and really start to practice and use them and receive even more gifts, you've got to practice to receive more. Join our amazing community at theintuitiongym.com. And also be sure to go ahead and, if you haven't already, take the free quiz that we have on theintuitiongym.com/quiz. So thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow.
thank you. See you then.